We're here in the School of Technology at Brookes University. This is a fantastic building, a great big building which was actually initially developed for motorsports technology, but these days we're very much focused on sustainable engineering and sustainable automotive transport. And part of our interest in all of this is with electric mobility. As we're getting engaged with the whole electric vehicle debate in the UK, and it's really truly an exciting time because lots of motor manufacturers are busily developing electric cars, and lots of their suppliers are developing the technologies associated with that. And it's one thing to look at technology, it's quite another to get the public acceptance of a new technology, something different. So what we're aiming to do, both as a university and within various research projects, is to examine the case that makes sense economically, but also is something that is fun and something that people want to engage in, something that's interesting. So our idea is to be involved with research projects, whether they're in the UK or European ones, where we want to really understand the motivations behind people's acceptance of something new. We want to find out what the technical limitations are with going to something new, and we really want to understand how to make it work financially. In terms of technology, there's lots of things that we need to investigate associated with the storage of energy, lighter weight batteries, extending the potential range of cars, working out whether weather conditions affect the usage of a vehicle. But in terms of why would someone want to change from their very nice conventional car to something different, something new, especially if it costs more, one of the many things that we're looking at is the consumer experience, the driver experience, and also the expectation, and what would really make people do something differently. Our journey into all this started with Oxford Brookes' involvement with BMW and becoming their research partner in the electric Mini project, the Mini E. And in that project we're looking at technical issues of the cars, we're looking at psychological issues to do with the drivers, and we're looking at business cases related to, can you make it all work financially? Clearly the car manufacturers at the moment believe that there's going to be a market. They're all spending a lot of money on research and development, and an interesting number of new products will be coming to the market over the next few years. The great thing about working on the Mini project was having real drivers, both fleet customers and normal sort of private individuals like me, to be able to drive these things, to find out what they're like, and that gives a lot of information about problems and also the benefits. The drivers were overwhelmingly positive about their Minis. And our involvement, together with the local authority and the energy company, meant that we were able to persuade Oxfordshire, the county, and also Oxford City to think about electrifying Oxford. So we had an involvement going back over a year to get Oxford as a so-called electric city, and the formation of the Oxfordshire EV Consortium. And the wonderful thing about that was that it happened at exactly the same time as the e-mobility project was just beginning to start. So we were able to use our experience from projects that we were already engaged with, and also look towards expanding our horizons into Europe and learning a lot from the people that we now know in Spain, in Poland, in Sweden, and in Holland, and to see what their experiences are, understand what works in their regions, and in particular to work out economically what works in their regions, and also perhaps to discover some of the problems that people are experiencing. And they don't tend to be technical, they tend to be attitudes and consumer behaviour. So I think the biggest thing that we need to achieve for the future is a massive communication message. And actually we're trying to get people to think differently about actually owning their own vehicles, and instead embarking upon a kind of usership scheme whereby maybe you buy an annual pass, a bit like a contract for a mobile phone, and you get a ticket which allows you to go and use a car for a couple of months, to use an electric scooter for 6 months, to use an electric bicycle almost indefinitely, maybe a handful of train tickets and bus tickets. Get people thinking about transport usage rather than ownership per se. One of the things that universities can do is to engage with a very large number of younger people who can influence more younger people in the early transition of electric vehicles. When people actually have a car, current prices, it's going to cost about 2p per mile to run. An internal combustion engine car currently costs about 15p per mile to run. That's a massive difference. So clearly there's a big economic benefit just now. It's just that we think that we can create much more pleasant urban environments by people using electric transport, get more towards a pavement culture, and then by working in projects such as e-mobility, working with town councils and city councils, we're also influencing the local politics. One of the interesting things about the UK in particular is the size of the so-called fleet market. That's the number of vehicles which are considered to be owned by businesses or bought by businesses. It's about 64% of all new car sales in the UK. Now in other countries in Europe the mix is a little bit different and the fleet is not so high, but it's still quite significant. If we can influence business to buy electric vehicles, cars or light commercial vans for say local delivery, then that suddenly becomes a very visible representation of new technologies. And then private consumers would look at these things and think, that's interesting, that's a very quiet looking vehicle, might go and buy one themselves. We're told some 7 million tourists come to Oxford per year, and of course they get here by a mixture of public transport and they might hire a car. If we can get, for instance, hotel chains to buy into the idea of making electric vehicles available and people could move from hotel to hotel, they might combine London, Oxford, York. That's kind of another interesting way of getting people to have a first time experience of electric mobility. It's really quite an exciting outcome from the project to sort of look at these ideas. Our colleagues in Krakow in Poland have got a big problem in terms of congestion. They're really desperate to find cases which will improve that. So we're now in a situation of sharing our experiences, they're sharing their experiences. We're looking to see what the common solutions are and what common incentives and policies could actually make a small difference to change behaviour. Our colleagues in Holland are looking at something a little bit differently, which is more related to local delivery, so electrified light commercial vehicles. And we also discussed exactly the same thing in Oxford, whereby we might have national deliveries of products to the edge of the city. We've got a lovely ring road around Oxford, and from there goods would be transferred into smaller electric vehicles that then go into the city centre. Those are some of the examples of things coming through the e-mobility project, and what we're trying to do now is get together the ideas so that anyone from politicians through to stakeholders, could be car companies, could be council officials, can understand the ideas and translate that into local policy. The great thing about the project currently is that we are working with partners in lots of different regions. Within those regions there are a lot of people working together as little mini networks, if you like. And I think you could truly say that as we move forward and also work with people in other consortia and other projects, we are indeed teaming up to accelerate the introduction of e-mobility.